In June 2023, a dramatic video spread across pro-war Russian channels. A drone dove in what looked like a Ukrainian tank, the strike landing in a fireball big enough to light up the sky. Commentators rushed to share the footage as proof of another Ukrainian loss. But not everything is what it seems in the Russia-Ukraine war. A day later, a different clip surfaced of a Ukrainian soldier grinning beside the wreckage, slapping the charred frame and laughing. The destroyed vehicle was never a tank at all, but a decoy. Up close, these plywood props often give themselves away with seams, fabric ripples, and flimsy frames. Yet from a drone's eye view, they dot fields and firing positions so convincingly that enemy gunners are forced to second-guess every target. Now, analysts estimate that in some categories, half the equipment spotted on the battlefield isn't even real. Only a couple of months after the Ukrainian viral clip, in September 2023, footage spread online of what initially looked like a Russian T-72 tank sitting exposed in a field in occupied Ukraine. However, this was also nothing more than an inflatable decoy. The incident finally confirmed that Russia's 45th Separate Camouflage Engineer Regiment, the nation's premier inflatable armor unit, had returned to the battlefield. Descended from the Cold War-era 45th Engineer and Sapper Regiment, established in 1980, the unit saw action in Afghanistan before evolving into something stranger. Based east of Moscow, the regiment shifted to decoy operations in 2006, then shut down shortly after. The Kremlin revived the unit in 2017, and by 2023, the 45th Regiment's engineers had their handiwork scattered across Ukraine. Made from lightweight materials such as artificial silk, a decoy tank weighs just over 200 pounds and costs a fraction of the price of an actual vehicle, running in the tens of thousands of dollars compared to millions for the real platform. To install them, the regiment's teams roll up in Kamaz trucks, unload their deflated creations, and 4 soldiers can drag them into place and inflate them right there in the field, using an electric or gas-powered blower. Within just 10 minutes, these designs are combat-ready and primed to fool cameras, drones, satellites, and men alike. Beyond inflatable T-72s, Russian forces field fake MiG-31 fighter jets, mock S-300 missile systems, and entire pop-up radar stations that exist only as illusions. And Russia isn't alone in this game. War analysts now track an escalating decoy arms race, with technology driving both sides to craft increasingly convincing fakes that blur the line between real threats and merely expensive mirages. From the very start of the war, Ukraine has leaned on deception just as heavily as Russia, building an arsenal of inflatable, plywood, and radar-mimicking fakes to stretch its limited firepower. In some cases, Kyiv's forces have ridiculed Russian blow-ups on social media after spotting them sagging or completely deflated in the field. By the end of 2023, the tactic had grown into an entire industry of its own. In a report from the same year, Czech Republic-based tech firm Inflatec produced more than 24 types of inflatable military replicas, covering tanks, armored vehicles, aircraft, and heavy weapons. These imitations come in flat packs, arrive inflatable, appear as 2D cutouts, or create radar illusions of tanks by reflecting radio waves in specific patterns. Among the most popular decoys the Ukrainian army deploys are models of British-made M777 howitzers, and the catalog now includes versions of the US-made HIMARS rocket system, supplied to Ukraine as part of billions in Western aid. According to CEO Wojtek Fresser, the company's orders for decoys jumped more than 30% compared to 2022, and he predicts demand will keep climbing at double-digit rates for the next 3 to 5 years. Though he refused to mention outright who receives these shipments, experts know precisely where they're heading. With its deception and the war escalating, almost anything on the front line, from small radars and grenade launchers to jeeps, trucks, tanks, and even soldiers, might prove fake. The trick extends into the air as well. Regarding drones, Ukrainian Air Force spokesman Yuri Inat put it bluntly, quote, "It's 50-50 these days. 50% are real Shahed drones, and 50% are imitation drones. Their job is to overload our air defenses and ideally get us to use a missile against a drone that costs peanuts." Inflatec isn't the only decoy supplier. Volunteers also play an essential role. According to Ruslan Klimenko, his group Nachazi alone has made about 160 models of M777 howitzers, a particularly popular model that takes 3 minutes, 2 people, and no tools to assemble on the front line. but flooding the battlefield with convincing enough fakes is worthless without knowing how to turn them into battlefield victories. One weakness of decoys is their failure to leave telltale signs of real vehicles, like track marks, churned soil, and thick diesel stains. Smart crews try to get around this by planting them in spots where real cars have already been, reusing the tracks, or picking ground that already looks like a firing position. Camouflage nets keep them concealed from casual observation while still tempting enemy sensors. Some units recreate entire camps, complete with ammunition crates, fuel drums, and even portable toilets, arranged exactly as soldiers would place them. The effect multiplies. Each false gun pit or plywood howitzer forces the enemy to question what they're seeing. For Russia, that doubt exploded into disaster on a few occasions. One of the wildest examples came during the early battle for Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, when Ukrainian forces raided local department stores for mannequins, dressed them up, and positioned them in trenches facing the incoming Russian 1st Tank Army. The plan worked perfectly, and later video evidence even showed Russian artillery pounding away at plastic dummies, exposing Russian artillery positions to Ukrainian counterfire. Soon, this deception campaign stretched all across the entire front line. Even Ukrainian civilians got creative. When Russian forces crossed the Dnipro River in southern Ukraine and pushed north, locals built fake checkpoints using wooden logs painted to look like artillery. When Ukrainian forces littered the battlefield with fake versions of the HIMARS systems, alongside plywood German Leopard tanks and other fake air defense batteries, the Russians simply couldn't resist and spent real money deploying precision weapons to attack these decoys, including Lancet drones that cost around $35,000 each, and Krasnopel guided artillery rounds, running $50,000 per shot. These tactics, however, are far from new. Disguise and trickery have been fundamental to military strategy for thousands of years. As Sun Tzu, the Chinese general and strategist of the 5th century BC, famously stated, quote, "All warfare is based on deception." The practice is particularly used when weaker forces need to outsmart superior enemies to even the odds. One of the first primary modern uses of decoys came in World War II during Operation Bertram. Set up in 1942, ahead of the Second Battle of El Alamein, engineers erected thousands of fake tanks, guns, and supply dumps in the southern desert, while real armor was hidden under canvas sun shields and made their way north. The clever deception convinced legendary General Erwin Rommel and his staff that the main British assault would fall in the wrong sector. When the attack began, the ruse helped General Bernard Montgomery achieve surprise and overwhelm the Axis line. Much more recently, during the Kosovo conflict in the late 1990s, Serbian forces filled their tanks with sand cans and burning fuel to fake heat signatures, a ruse that managed to fool NATO's state-of-the-art thermal imaging. The use of decoys only expanded as the Ukraine-Russia war dragged on. Now, as each side gets better at spotting dummies, the ever-advancing technology is raising the stakes. Today's surveillance drones, equipped with thermal and infrared sensors, can quickly expose hollow decoys. Russia's 45th Regiment counters this by fitting heaters inside its inflatables. But copying other signatures is harder. A decoy radar station, for example, cannot easily replicate the electronic emissions of the real thing. In 2024, Ukraine's partners began supplying more advanced replicas, including full-scale inflatable F-16 fighters, also produced by the Czech firm Inflatec. One was displayed publicly at a defense show in Denmark, a complete airframe with canopy, tail, and wingtip pods. By 2025, Russia was also scaling up its own deception game. Satellite imagery revealed dozens of Mach S-300 and S-400 air defense launchers deployed around Vladivostok in the Far East, filling gaps where real systems had been redeployed to Ukraine. Analysts noted that these wooden and metal frames could not fire a missile, but they looked convincing enough from above to complicate NATO and Ukrainian targeting. As drones and sensors proliferate across the battlefield, this game of deception will only intensify. In Ukraine's fields and forests, where a convincing lie can be worth more than an expensive truth, both sides must constantly evolve their illusions or risk having them shattered.